The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Chain Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service.
The highway of my life has not been easy. I've had my share of troubles and of strife. Somehow it's the good times I remember as I look back down the highway of my life.
I'm absolutely delighted to welcome to the Life and Times of Irish country music legend Margo. Margo, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Hugh. It's lovely to be here.
Margo, take us back to where you were born and raised.
I was born in Donegal and Donegal Town Hospital, but we were from Kincastle, you know. My mother was from an island off the northwest coast, and my father was from about 3 miles away from there, a little place called Burtonport. So I was born in Donegal and reared there. I spent a little bit of time as a child in Scotland with my mum and dad, but returned back to Donegal when I was 3.
Right. And obviously you have many favourite childhood memories. What would be your favourite memory of all?
I suppose there's dozens and dozens of memories, but we lived initially, when we came back to Kincastle, we lived in a 2-storey house. We only occupied the bottom part. But it was the memory of fishermen who weren't able to get home at weekends. You know, the sea would be rough or whatever. And they would always head for an island house. And my mother was an island woman. So it would have been nights like that at weekends when there would be great sing-songs, you know, and the fishermen would sing and my dad would sing. And as a young girl, I would sing the songs that my dad had taught me. So they were fabulous memories, and a lot of memories of the island as well, where my mother came from.
Right. And who was the biggest influence in your childhood as you grew up, Margo?
My father. Yeah.
Why was that?
He was just everything to me, my dad. I always say he hung the moon for me. And he was a great influence on me because I was very interested in music. I loved music of any description. And he knew all the old Irish ballads, and he would sing them to me, and he would teach them to me. And even days that I would travel with him as a child to do the turf, to the bog, we would sit at tea times around the fire on the mountain, and he would sing songs to me. So he was a wonderful influence in my life as a child and as I grew up into a teenager.
Right.
So it would have to be my dad.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. I'm the second eldest. John Bosco is the eldest, and then after me there's Kathleen, and then James, and then the youngest is Daniel.
Right. And Margo, how did you first get into the music business?
It would always have been known that I sang, you know, and my mother, although she never sang, she knew all of the Irish songs, Irish ballads, and her father, my grandfather, was born in Staten Island in New York,
right,
and came home as a young child. So we would have had a lot of family in America, and my mother would have got the old 78 records from there, and there was an old gramophone in the island house at my grandparents', and we would wind up the gramophone at night and listen to the records that were sent from America to my mom. So I was involved like that. My mother was mad about music, even though she couldn't sing. But then, of course, I was in the choir in the church, and it would have been known that I was able to sing. So in Lent that time, there was no dances. The dances would be stopped. And the Keynotes Band would get involved in a little amateur dramatics thing that they would put on, you know, in the parochial halls, right, around the areas. And the intervals where they would be resetting the stage. From the age of 6 years of age, I would sing. I'd be the fill-in, you know. And I remember the first song that I sang on stage when I was 6 was up in Kincastle Hall in St. Mary's in Kincastle, and it was The Road by the River, which later on I went to record My second single it was, and was a big hit for me. But that was the first song that I sang on stage in the hall at home. So that's really how I got started. That's how the Keynotes and me became very, very close. And of course, the members of the band would be all known to my mum and dad. So they would be all neighbours' children.
Right, yeah. And tell me, Margo, who were your earliest musical influences in the business, either American or Irish, or who would you have more or less looked up to and followed when you were young and growing up?
I really, we didn't have the mod cons, so I really only learned the Irish songs from my dad. And my mom knew the words of all the, the American folky stuff. So I would have learned them off the records, the old 78s. And then when I later joined the Keynotes, I was over in Glasgow with them during an Easter holiday from school. And I remember we went to a place called the Barrowland in Glasgow on the Saturday. Con Boyle, the owner of the Keynotes, he took me there. And I remember over the tannoy, it was called the Barrows in Glasgow, and it was always where there would be a load of big barrows and small barrows. It was like a market that took place in Glasgow on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Right.
So I remember walking along there and hearing the voice of, to me it was an angel. And I remember stopping and going up to the man and saying, "Who's that singing?" And he says, "That's Patsy Cline."
All right.
And I remember that was she had just been killed at the time.
Right.
But I remember I bought two of her records, and on those records were "Dear God" in the Eyes of a Child. And I remember going back to where I was staying and putting those records on, and I was captivated by the voice of Patsy Cline.
Right.
Yeah. So she would have been the first country record I
So
ever
what
bought.
would be your most treasured possession?
I suppose it would have to be Kitty Wells, an album that I have of the old songs of Kitty Wells. At the end of the day, I would have recorded songs, cover versions by a lot of people, but Kitty's singing, her keys that she sang in, and the songs that she sang suited my country voice the best, So I have an old album of Kitty's that she actually sang for me the first time that I met her. And that would absolutely be my most treasured possession in the music thing.
And can you remember the first time you met her and where that was?
I met her, the first time I met her was in Wembley at the big Wembley Festival. And she was singing there. So that was probably the first time that I went into her dressing room and got to sit down and talk with her. I had been introduced to her probably up at the stand earlier that day. But I remember feeling a great sense of belonging when I shook Kitty Wells's hand. And, I got to know her a bit better as the years went on and visited her out in her little home in Madison. And I'm so glad that we did get to know each other, and that she knew who Margo was and that I actually knew the queen, the true queen of country music.
Margo, what gives you more satisfaction in life?
I think it was probably seeing the happiness on people's faces. Some of the stories that people would relate my music to, and letters that I would get of how much that my music and my voice had helped them, maybe through a situation. You never really sit and say, "Oh, what is my voice about?" I wouldn't do that, but in latter years, since I've stopped touring, one of the last things I would do at night is I would say, "Thank you, God, for the voice you gave me," and that it could help to heal some wounds in other people. That would be very, very special.
Right. Margo, I know you've had many highlights in your career. What has been the highlight of your career to date? Would you say one highlight that really stands out?
When I got sick about 16 years ago, I developed a blood disorder, and I went out to San Giovanni in Italy to the birthplace of Padre Pio. And there was a pilgrimage there that time from Tipperary, and they heard that I was with another group of people, And there was a mass in the church where Padre Pio said his last mass. And they asked me, would I sing the mass? And part of it I sang in Latin. And standing on the same platform as a saint once stood.
Right.
I think that was, I sang that night with my eyes closed and I shivered, because I'll never forget the feeling. There's been many stages, but that was the most spiritual stage of all.
Right, right. And Margo, what has been the most embarrassing moment of your life so far, professionally?
Professionally, I haven't actually talked about this, and somebody said to me very recently, why didn't I put it in the book? I had forgotten about it. I was on stage in Wimbledon, in the theatre in Wimbledon, and I had done sound checks and all this, and somebody said to me, the promoter said, there'll be wheelchairs down there, will you acknowledge them? And I didn't realise that when the wheelchairs came in, they were along on the outer platform. And when I went to walk towards them, the orchestra pit was opened. And I was singing Deep Sheephaven Bay. And I went down, I fell into I did a Madonna on it. Madonna fell the other day.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kept singing and I climbed back up. But I was really embarrassed at that, But thank God, nothing too drastic.
Margo, what are the 3 things you cannot live without?
I can't live without music. I can't live. I find it a great comfort, my music, and that I can sing and make people's lives more fulfilled. I can't live without my friends, and I find it now very difficult to live without my mom.
Right.
So they would be
your mother just recently passed away.
Yeah, I miss her so much. I never thought it would be like this.
Right.
But I'm getting there. She's helping me.
Right. Margo, can you remember the first time you heard yourself on radio? And if so, what was the song and where were you?
I was at home in Donegal, and the first song I recorded, 2 songs, was The Bonny Irish Boy. And my father had given me that song. It's well documented that he taught it to me, and it was the first single I ever did. And we were waiting on the 16th of August, 1968, for it to be played on the sponsored programmes between 1:15 and 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And he waited so hard for that time to come that day, to hear the song for the first time. And there was no sort of mod cons that time that I could bring home a copy. We didn't have a copy of the single. And he died at 11:10 that day. And the programme was pulled off the air, and we released it 3 weeks down the line after he was buried and the funeral was over. And I remember I heard it on the radio in the background, and I walked away. I couldn't sort of listen to it without him being there. But then in our local little town, Dunlow, I went there and they had a jukebox. And I went in and somebody had just played The Bonny Irish Boy and Dear God. And I remember finding it strange, sitting eating a fish supper, and I came on the jukebox. I thought it surreal.
Right,
I really did think it surreal. So I was in Dunlow and Doherty's Fish and Chip Shop when I heard it first.
Your first song.
The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Chain Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service. The Best of Hot Country Volume 1 4-CD set, 100 songs, featuring all your top Irish country stars including Mike Dunbar, Nathan Carter, Derek Ryan, Lisa McHugh, Declan Nerney, Mick Flavin, Louise Morrissey and many, many more. Now available at €20 including postage and packing. To order, call 087 685 9895 and log on to www.hotcountrytv.com. Paddy O'Brien March Scottish Tour, Friday 27th Royal British Legion Club, Saturday 28th Invergordon Social Club, Sunday 29th New Inn Hotel Ellen, April English Tour, Friday the 10th Tiverton Town Football, Saturday 11th venue to be announced, Sunday the 12th Rosley Village Hall.
It's the Hooli in the Sun in the Costa de Luz, Spain, September 26th to October 3rd. Join me, Declan Ernie, with my guests Brendan Shine, Louise Morrissey, Susan McCann, Big Chief, Big Flavin, Patrick Feeney and many, many more. Don't miss the Hooli of Hoolies, September 26th to October 3rd. For bookings, Dempsey's Travel Trim.
To book Paul Kelly and Band, call 077 889 01949 or 085 777 3353 www.paulkellymusic.com.
A 1-hour TV special, The Brandon McPhee Show, featuring traditional Scottish and country music. Sky Television 266, Freesat 157 and free-to-air Bonanza. Please tune in.
Join us on Tuesday, April the 28th at the Mullingar Park Hotel for our Hot Country Awards concert featuring a host of Ireland's top country stars including Nathan Carter, Mike Denver, Lisa McHugh, Derek Ryan, Johnny Brady, Lee Matthews, Margo, Philomena Begley and many, many more. Tickets €25 per person, now available from hotel reception and from various outlets throughout Ireland. See you on April the 28th at the Mullingar Park Hotel. Introducing Stephen Walker's new 14-track album, The Lone Ranger. Now available in all good record shops and mail-order companies in Ireland and the UK. For bookings call 00353 87 468 7236. Join Stephen Walker for his 14-track CD launch at the Allingham Arms Hotel, Bundoran on Friday the 27th of March next with guests Paul Kelly, Lisa McCrory, Alana Maher and Vincie Wormsley. Admission €10, show 10 p.m, bed and breakfast and admission only €40 per person sharing.
The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Chain Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service.
This is another of the old standards. It's snowing out there in the gloaming. I've sat here and watched it all night. The kids will be thrilled when they waken and look at the fields deep and white. But the snow makes me think of my darling, for he hated the snow and the cold. Now he lies in a grave here in Ireland with the headstone that's just 1 year old. Won't you please make the winter go quick, Lord, so the flowers around him can grow. For I can't stand the thought of my darling lying there in the deepening snow. Little Jimmy climbs up on my knee now, saying, Mommy, what causes the snow? Then I tell of the wonderful Father who cares for us all here below. Then I hold him so close and I kiss him, and he kissing back doesn't know that my kiss is meant for his daddy, lying there in the deepening snow. Won't you please make the winter go quick, Lord, so the flowers around him can grow. For I can't stand the thought of my darling lying there in the deepening snow. No, I can't stand the thought of my darling out there in the deepening snow.
Margo, what is your favourite song that you have recorded? Do you have a favourite song of all your recordings?
I have a lot of favourite songs, you know, but I probably the song that I love most of all probably would be The Bonny Irish Boy, and it's the first one I ever did. But I sing a song that I always relate to my mum, and she loved it. She used to say to me, if you're ever singing a song for me, let it be Patches in Heaven.
All right.
So those two, but a lot of my songs are favourites, but they would be two I'd pick.
Right. And Margo, what's your all-time favourite country song by any singer, and why would you have that favourite?
Probably My Tennessee Mountain Home by Dolly, but only Dolly. I don't think that anybody can sing that quite like her. I mean, she wrote it, and I think the feeling that Dolly puts into that song, nobody else could ever come close. And I listened to that song a lot when I first heard it, so I think that would be my all-time favourite song.
Of course, you've met Dolly Parton a number of times. You've been to Nashville a number of times. Can you tell me the first time you went to Nashville and what you remember about that?
When I went to Nashville first, I met a lot of the grand ladies of the opera, you know, and I had done cover versions of a lot of their stuff. And I was very friendly with Liz Anderson, who's the mother of Lynn Anderson. And she's a great writer, wrote a lot of songs for Merle Haggard and wrote The Fugitive, and From Now On, All My Friends Are Going to Be Strangers. Became very friendly with her and Casey. And I had met a lot of the women singers at Wembley during the years that the Wembley Festival was on. So I was very friendly, and still am to this day, with Jean Shepherd, Skeeter Davis, Jeannie Pruitt, John Howard, people like that. But when I went to Nashville first, that would have been the ring of people that I would have spent time with, and I went out to visit Kitty Wells. But when I went to spend time with Dolly was after I had got ill, and Dolly and I recorded that time together. We had a photo shoot done, and that was surreal.
Right.
I remember being out in Franklin and Jeannie Pruitt's home. One day we had gone for a meal, and the next day I was going to have a photo shoot done with Dolly, and the recording was going to come later on. And Skeeter Davis said to me, "What are you doing tomorrow, Margo?" And I said, "I'm getting a photo shoot done with Dolly, and we're recording." And one of them looked at the other, and they thought it very strange. And God rest Tony Lockman, he was doing bookings for me at the time, and he had called me that morning in Nashville to ask me what was I doing, and I told him I was getting ready to go out to meet Dolly. And he said to me, "You know, daughter," he said, "why don't you go over to Music Row and buy a photograph of Dolly?" And he says, "I'll superimpose your face on it, because that won't happen." So the minute I got the photos, I FedExed them here to Tony to make sure that he knew that. And I did meet Dolly, and it was sort of not heard of too much. But through a friend of mine, Bobby O'Brien, and Lewis Owens, her mum's brother, I got friendly with them, and that was how I got to meet Dolly and got to record with her. And I recorded actually with all the Owens and the Partons, and would visit Dolly's mum and dad's house a lot, and got to know her father well, and would sit on the front porch and talk to him, and he would tell great stories about how special all his children were, but how extra special Dolly was. And Dolly is very special. When Dolly Parton says she'll do something for you, it's an honour, and she lives up to her word. Now, I'm not on the phone to Dolly, or I would still have to make a phone call if I wanted to get something from her, but we're not pals in one another's ears. But anything that she ever said she'd do for me, she has done it, and they've been wonderful. So I had great times with her.
Margo, going back to when you began your career, can you remember the first professional night you played with your band, and where did that take place? And can you remember your band members, who there were?
Yes.
That must be a very nostalgic time going
yes,
back along.
The first night that I sang with the Keynotes was in Ardra in County Donegal. And it was absolutely unreal for me. My mom came with me. I had a little dress on me. I wasn't quite 13 years of age. It was 1964, and I sang Nobody's Child and the 40 Shades of Green.
Right.
So I remember all of the keynotes. The keynotes, the members of them would change as the years went by, but the very first keynotes that I sang with, there's only one of them that has passed on, and he would be the youngest of them, Johnny Gallagher. And there would be Con Boyle, Tony Boyle, Eddie Quinn, Hughie Ward, and Paddy Joe O'Donnell. So they were like brothers to me. You know, they looked after me like I was their little sister. And it was really a special, special moment. My mom was in the audience that night, so it was extra special.
Great times, of course. If you weren't a country star, Margo, what would your career have been? What would you have worked at?
I would have been a nurse. I always wanted to be a nurse. When I started with the keynotes, it was just for fun. I never ever thought that singing could be a career, you know. And I wanted to finish school, be a nurse, and get married and have 3 or 4 children. That was my dream. And that dream was totally smashed the day my dad died. We didn't, I was the second eldest, and I had a way of earning a couple of pounds, you know. My brother John was working part-time in Dunlow at the time in a shop, and there was just John and I, but I had recorded my first record at the time, and people were starting to take notice of the voice. And when I was recorded my second record, The Road by the River and the Edge of a Child, I was approached by a Dublin promoter. And that was in '69, and I was offered £100 a week and a car and driver on the road. And that was a king's ransom at the time, and talked it over with Mum. And it was our out. It was our way that we could live financially without Dad. You know, we couldn't live without him being there. Yeah. He would always be our memory and our rock, but at least we wouldn't go without if I went down that road. So I talked it over with Mum, and it seemed to be the right thing to do, and I was able to help Mum financially down through the years.
So you're very, very close to your family at all times, down through the years, to your mother.
Yes,
and
I have no regrets for anything that I have done with my family. I haven't. We all make mistakes. Everybody makes them. Some of the things that I have done, maybe they wouldn't be happy with. Some of the things that they have done, maybe I wouldn't be. But they're my family, and I love them, and I would do it all again for them. I'm just proud that I was in a position to help them.
The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Chain Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service. The Best of Hot Country Volume 1 4-CD set, 100 songs, featuring all your top Irish country stars, including Mike Dunbar, Nathan Carter, Derek Ryan, Lisa McHugh, Declan Nerney, Mick Flavin, Louise Morrissey and many, many more. Now available at €20, including postage and packing. To order, call 087 685 9895 and log on to www.hotcountrytv.com. To book Paul Kelly and Band, call 077 889 01949 or 085 777 3353 www.paulkellymusic.com.
A 1-hour TV special, The Brandon McPhee Show, featuring traditional Scottish and country music. Sky Television 266, Freesat 157 and free-to-air Bonanza. Please tune in.
Paddy O'Brien March Scottish Tour, Friday 27th Royal British Legion Club, Saturday 28th Invergordon Social Club, Sunday 29th New Inn Hotel Ellen, April English Tour, Friday the 10th Tiverton Town Football, Saturday 11th venue to be announced, Sunday the 12th Rosley Village Hall. Join us on Tuesday, April the 28th at the Mullingar Park Hotel for our Hot Country Awards concert featuring a host of Ireland's top country stars including Nathan Carter, Mike Denver, Lisa McHugh, Derek Ryan, Johnny Brady, Lee Matthews, Margo, Philomena Begley and many, many more. Tickets €25 per person, now available from hotel reception and from various outlets throughout Ireland. See you on April the 28th at the Mullingar Park Hotel.
See Mike Denver in concert with special guest Caitlin. Tuesday the 21st of April at the Ryan Centre Stranraer, Wednesday the 22nd at the Palace Theatre Kilmarnock, Thursday the 23rd at the Volunteer Hall Gala Shields and Sunday the 26th of April at the Town Hall in Falkirk. Full details from Pine Tree Promotions on 01776 705 150.
Introducing Stephen Walker's new 14-track album, The Lone Ranger. Now available in all good record shops and mail-order companies in Ireland and the UK. For bookings call 00353 87 468 7236.
Join the new king of country music, Derek Ryan, from Thursday the 16th to Sunday 26th of April throughout the UK. Starting in the Pyramid Theatre in Warrington, Leeds Irish Centre, the Circus Tavern in Purfleet, the Harlequin Theatre in Redhill, the Pavilion Hall in Worthing, the Sundial Theatre in Cirencester, the Pier House in Westward Ho Biddyford, the Marine Hall in Fleetwood, Birmingham Irish Centre and the Princess Theatre in Hunstanton. Tickets are on sale from all venues with further information available from DerekRyanMusic.com.
The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Inn Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service.
Over the years, I have traveled many lands. Over the years, I have come to understand that down the path of life, there are joys and there are tears, many lessons I have learned over the years. It seems like many years ago, I packed my bags and had to go along the many highways far and wide, to cities I had never seen, to countries I had never been. Strangers that I met became the best friends in my life. Over the years, I have traveled many lands. Over the years, I have come to understand that down the path of life, there are joys and there are tears, many lessons I have learned over the years. Yeah, Joe. Planes with silver wings have taken me so far away, to places of rare beauty, neon lights as bright as day. But even with good friends around, when I'm all alone, constantly my mind returns to loved ones and a home. Over the years, I have traveled many lands. Over the years, I have come to understand that down the path of life, there are joys and there are tears, many lessons I have learned over the years. Over the years, I have traveled many lands. Over the years, I have come to understand that down the path of life, there are joys and there are tears, many lessons I have learned over the years. Thank you very much.
Margo, if you had the choice of recording a song with a country star, either living are no longer with us. One country star, who would that be?
Conway Twitty.
Why Conway?
I just thought he was the greatest singer ever I heard. I love George Jones and Merle Haggard, but Conway, oh, he was just something else. And of course, I always regret not having recorded with Kitty, because I could have, you know, but I didn't, Kitty Wells.
Why didn't you?
You know, what do? You think, oh, maybe I'll do it again. And it was something that I just,
yes,
there are people
in
this life, you know, that you think will go on forever.
Yeah.
And it was only when I heard Kitty was dead that I thought, God, why didn't I record with Kitty Wells? I was reaching out to places that maybe I would have been more in tune with if I sang with Kitty. Right. But I didn't do it, and I regret it, but it's past.
And do you like going into the recording studio? Do you mind it?
I don't mind it now. I suppose I was always fearful of recording, you know, but now I suppose I'm not competing anymore.
Right.
I'm not out touring. This year has been a very special year from September last until this September 2015. I'll finish my 50th year, and I'm taking a step back. I only went back and did some concert this year for the 50th year, and to celebrate them and the different provinces, and I went to them all. I have about 2 or 3 more shows to do, and I never would use the word retire. That's something a singer doesn't do, or an actor maybe doesn't do, but I always feel that when I came into this world, God gave me this. I didn't train for this. It doesn't seem like a job. It was never a job. I love doing it, and but it gave me a living, and it helped my family tremendously, helped my mum when she needed it more than ever. And I would never ever use the word retire. I suppose wherever Margo, and I sometimes look at Margaret O'Donnell and Margo as 2 separate people. Right. But in writing the book, I found that I was watching Margo take care of Margaret and vice versa. Margaret is very proud of Margo, and Margo is very proud of the person who is Margaret O'Donnell. So I really do think that no matter when Margo steps in somewhere and is asked to sing, it is her bound duty to do so.
And speaking of the concerts, Margo, each and every one of them had been hugely successful. You also do a lot of work for charity, and you've worked for charities that you do a lot of work for.
I like the charity. I started working for the Third World Charities with the St. Patrick's Fathers in Chicago 6 years ago, and I did that for 6 years. And we got money, you know, to orphanages in Haiti and Water for Life in Africa and different places. We knew where the money was going, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I got involved last year with Sister Concilio from the addiction unit in Coonvera, and I did a concert for that, which I plan on. I hope that I'll be able to do that and do it with honour. For Sister Concilio. I found that she's a very special person that has been placed in our midst, and I will work on that charity. Of course, I do charity for cancer. I had a brush with breast cancer back in the early 90s, and I was very ill that time. So cancer is always something that's a terrible thing for everybody, and no matter who you are, you will be touched sometime in your life by cancer, and I think it's a great thing to give money to. And I have a special needs nephew who is very special, so I would always do things for the handicapped or the special needs people. So they would be the 3 things I would do charity work for.
Margo, what is the one piece of advice you had been given, and that you actually stuck with and actually followed down through the years from once you were young up to the present day?
It would have been a conversation that I had with my dad in the September of '67. I was at the potato picking in Scotland, like a lot, tatty hookers we were, and people went from West Mayo, North Kerry, and Donegal, being very close to Scotland, they would have gone in gangs over there and picked potatoes all up the Renfrewshire coast and down to the borders of England, to Kelso. And I was going back to school, so I had to leave the squad earlier than the rest of them. And my father came and picked me up and brought me to my aunts in Edinburgh and my uncles in Perth. And I remember we were going on the train across the Fort Road Bridge, and we were sitting in the little cabin, and he talked to me about life, right, and about how I would meet people of different religions, but because they weren't of my religion, there was nothing wrong with them, and to respect them. And no matter what you have, he said, don't ever change and think you're better than the other person. And I always remember that, maybe more so when he passed away. And I always said, I will always be nice to people, you know, because you never know when you're going to meet those people again, and it's easy to be nice.
You were obviously very, very close to your father, and he passed away very young, did he?
Yeah, he was just 48, coming 49, and he wasn't ill. You know, he worked right up until that year, and he came home. He used to come home every year to do, you know, the turf and set the potatoes for us, and then he'd go back to work in Scotland with his brothers and whatever. But he came home that year, and he was going to do a little bit of work at home with fencing and that. And the 15th of August, being the Feast of Our Lady, I noticed that day he didn't go to Mass. And he was a very spiritual man. He also had a cure. He was the seventh son, and children that time wouldn't be up at night, or you weren't allowed to take part in adult conversation. So John, my eldest brother, and me, and my sister Kathleen, we would have noticed people coming to him, but we never knew what it was about, you know. Yeah. But he seemed to kind of talk to me on the day that he died very much as if he was going away. And I was singing that night, the 15th of August, in Fintown Hall. And I remember spending a lot of that day with him, the 15th of August. And I sang, and he sang actually 2 songs for me that day. He sang When the Fields Are White with Daisies, I'll Return, and A Mother's Last Goodbye. And he asked me to sing the Bonny Irish Boy, and I sang it for him, along with another song called My Grandfather on the Isle used to sing at Skibbereen, and I sang a little bit of that. And that night I went off to the dance in Fintown and came back about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I went into my mum and dad's room to tell them I was home. That's what you did, you know. And he was praying. He was a very spiritual man. And then I went to bed. I shared a room with my grandmother who lived with us at the time. And I went to bed about 5:20, and at 9:20, my mum called me and said my dad was ill in the bathroom. We had just moved into our first home. It was a little council cottage, and it was beautiful. And we had running water, and we had an inside toilet, you know, and we had a bath. And we didn't have that in the other house, you know. Our toilet was down in the garden just across the road, you know. And he was in the bathroom, and when I went in, he was pretty breathless. And I ran to the village. We had no phones. There wasn't phones in houses. Then the doctor had a phone, the priest had a phone, and maybe people that had businesses had phones, but we hadn't. And I ran to the post office to phone the doctor, and eventually Dad was brought to Dunlow, our little local hospital, to be later brought on to Letterkenny for an x-ray. And I was just getting ready to go with him on the ambulance. But he just got to Dunlow and asked to see the priest, and before I could get there, he had passed away.
Do you believe you'll meet him again?
I hope so. I do believe I will meet my Mom and Dad. I don't think I could go on if I thought I couldn't meet them again. And it was funny, the last name my mom called out the morning that she died last May, she said that she saw my father. And I had already told her earlier, 10 hours earlier, I said to her, all of them have partners, but I have no one, only you. I said, but I don't want you to suffer, and I want you to go to Dad, and he'll come for you. And it was amazing that she called out his name just before she passed away.
The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Chain Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service. The Best of Hot Country Volume 1 4-CD set, 100 songs, featuring all your top Irish country stars including Mike Dunbar, Nathan Carter, Derek Ryan, Lisa McHugh, Declan Nerney, Mick Flavin, Louise Morrissey and many, many more. Now available at €20 including postage and packing. To order, call 087 685 9895 and log on to www.hotcountrytv.com. Paddy O'Brien March Scottish Tour, Friday 27th, Royal British Legion Club, Saturday 28th, Invergordon Social Club, Sunday 29th, New Inn Hotel Ellen, April English Tour, Friday the 10th, Tiverton Town Football, Saturday 11th, venue to be announced, Sunday the 12th, Rosley Village Hall.
It's the Hoolie in the Sun in the Costa de Luz, Spain, September 26th to October 3rd. Join me, Declan Nerney, with my guest Brendan Shine, Louise Morrissey, Susan McCann, Big Chief, Big Flavin, Patrick Feeney and many, many more. Don't miss the Hoolie of Hoolies, September 26th to October 3rd. For bookings, Dempsey's Travel Trim.
To book Paul Kelly and Band, call 077 889 01949 or 085 777 3353 www.paulkellymusic.com.
A 1-hour TV special, The Brandon McPhee Show, featuring traditional Scottish and country music. Sky Television 266, Freesat 157 and free-to-air Bonanza. Please tune in.
Join us on Tuesday, April the 28th at the Mullingar Park Hotel for our Hot Country Awards concert, featuring a host of Ireland's top country stars including Nathan Carter, Mike Dunbar, Lisa McHugh, Derek Ryan, Johnny Brady, Lee Matthews, Margo, Philomena Begley and many, many more. Tickets €25 per person, now available from hotel reception and from various outlets throughout Ireland. See you on April the 28th at the Mullingar Park Hotel. Introducing Stephen Walker's new 14-track album, The Lone Ranger. Now available in all good record shops and mail-order companies in Ireland and the UK. For bookings, call 00353 87 468 7236. Join Stephen Walker for his 14-track CD launch at the Allingham Arms Hotel, Bundoran on Friday the 27th of March next, with guests Paul Kelly, Lisa McCrory, Alana Maher and Vincy Wormsley. Admission €10, show 10 p.m, bed and breakfast and admission only €40 per person sharing. The Life and Times, sponsored by Waters, the Old Court Chain Bar and Restaurant, Castleblaney, County Monaghan, for great food, country music and friendly service.
The lights of Rosslare Harbour are fading from my view. Alone on board the ferry as I sail away from you. The dreams and plans we cherished as we shared the last few years, they're slowly being extinguished. They run down my face in tears. This heart of mine is breaking. It's pounding in my breast. Still everybody tells me, sure you know 'tis for the best. But today I lose my best friends as I leave you both behind. Both you, my love, and Ireland will be always on my mind. The lights of Rosslare Harbour are fading from my view. Alone on board the ferry as I sail away from you. The dreams and plans we cherished as we shared the last few years, they're slowly being extinguished. They're on down my face in tears. All right, Clive.
Margo, what advice would you give to new artists starting out in the music business now?
Yeah, it would be pretty, it's hard. It's hard to know. I take a great interest in all the new acts. I make sure that I get to hear them. The only thing that I must say about a lot of them, there are a lot of them very samey. You know, I like to be able to switch on the radio or close my eyes and know who's singing the song. Now, you can do that with Big Tom or Joe Dolan or Philomena or Susan or even Louise. I would always recognise Louise's voice. But I would tell them to get in touch with what they're singing about, to make sure that it's not just words, that they know what the song is about. When you know, the one thing that I learned, I had hardship and I had heartache and I had my heart broken for different reasons, and I'm so glad I did. And I had to go away from home to work, so I could sing immigrant songs and feel it. You know, I remember the first time that I sang on stage in New York, and I was singing to immigrants that were away from home, and I was singing songs like The Hills of Glenswilly and Shanna Golden and Any Tipperary Town. And they were the songs that were bringing them back home. You see, at that time when I started out, there wasn't the planes coming back and forth. Yeah. You know, people went away. I met people that time, the first time I went to New York and went on to Boston and several cities in the States to tour, that had never been home. I became friends with a fella called Bobby O'Brien, and he got to know Ireland through Margo's records. He said to his father, "Tell me about Ireland." And his father gave him one of my albums, my Irish albums, and he says, "That girl can tell you far better than I can. Listen to her singing." And that was a great compliment to me, that I could actually take a small hill or a town or a person back home and place them in the area where that immigrant was. And the same with country music, with country songs. I always sang the simple, you know, as Big Tom and I, when we talk about our songs always being heartbreak songs and sad songs. But they are the things that we lived. We lived them. I probably sang about, maybe in my whole career of 50 years, I probably sang 4 happy songs. Yeah. The rest all had a sad tale, you know. So I would say to the young acts, you know, get to know what you're singing about.
Margo, tell us about your latest recordings. And I know you told there earlier on you have your book out for the last couple of months celebrating 50 years in the business. Briefly tell us about that and your recording.
Well, people had asked me many, many times about writing a book, and I believe everybody has a book. You know, everybody has a life story to tell, and some people a far greater life story than me. But a lot of people would say to me, your story, if you tell it, could help a lot of people. And I just thought, well, a lot of people would need to be dead before I write the book, you know, because I wasn't going to write lies. Right. So that was the first thing. And then I was over in Tenerife on a holiday, and Sean Lockery came to me and he handed me a book that he had just read called My House of Memories by Merle Haggard. And I hadn't read that book, and although he had a ghostwriter to write it, Merle told him about his life in his own words, and he didn't mention no names. He just said that everybody would know who they were. And I met Sean a couple of nights after that, up in the hole in the wall, and I said, you know, Sean, I said, I'm going to start writing my book when I go home, and you showed me how to do it with My House of Memories. And I said, I'll mention that in the book. And he says, would you? And I did. And I started when I came back home, and I wrote it all out in longhand, and Shirley and Bridie and a whole load of people typed it up for me and put it on computer. And I didn't tell it all, but I told all that I wanted to tell, without mentioning too many names. And it was hard to do. It was hard to go back into negative places in my life. But to write it, I had to tell it. And I had to live it again. And I'm glad now that I did. And if it has only helped one person, it served its purpose for me. And of course, then I recorded CDs and DVDs to coincide with the book and all that. And they've all been wonderful. And Michael English did an awards show that I was one night away the year before last. And he phoned me the next day, knew my 50 years was starting. And he asked me, you know, about what I had with me when I left home. And I said, not very much. And I went to tell him about my grandmother giving me, calling me back at the door. I had a coat and a wee suitcase, and I was heading for Dublin. And she called me back and she gave me a medal, which I have to this day. And she said, keep that medal beside you, it'll always keep you safe. So Michael landed up here the next day to me, and he had written My Pocket Full of Dreams. So it's a wonderful song.
And that features on your latest,
it's
fabulous song,
the title track, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The name of your book, Margo?
The Promise and the Dream. I made a promise to my dad the day that he died that I would look after my mom and my siblings. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I made the promise, never dreaming that he was going to die. I made it. I would have promised that man anything that day. But I made that promise, and then I said, no matter what, I have to carry it out. And the dream, I suppose, was a little bit harder. The dream was that we would never go without, and we didn't, and that we would make Mom proud. And I took that dream to this year and to the 16 years that I didn't tour. But my brother Daniel has carried it on. And the dream is still alive, so for that I'm happy.
How often do you go back to Kincastle?
I used to go back a lot. My mother died in May. Yeah. I went back for a month's mind, and I've never been back since. Right. I don't know when I'll go. It's too hard at the minute, so I'll stay away. And
Margo, what's your biggest fear?
I really don't. I don't have a fear anymore. I got rid of my fear, you know, when I was able to fulfill my father's wish. And I don't have a fear anymore, except that I'll always have the happiness that I have right now, and the contentment, and that I will live a good life, and that God will grant me with the great things that He has given me till now, that He'll stay beside me and keep me safe.
And finally, Margo, what would you like to say to your many thousands of fans out there watching our show tonight?
Thank you. You've been so special to me.
And Margo, thank you very much for inviting us into your home here in Castleblaney and sitting down and talking to us in this most interesting interview. Again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Continued success to you.
Thank you for coming, and call anytime you pass it for a wee cup of tea.
The highway of my life has not been easy. I've had my share of troubles and of strife. Somehow it's the good times I remember as I look back down the highway of my life. it's not been easy. I've had my share of troubles and of strife. Somehow it's the good times I remember as I look back down the highway of my life. Thank you.